Bureau. Cole Cubelic joins us, college football analyst with ESPN and the SEC Network and noted Peloton sadist. You doing okay now? Are you going to make it, Cole?
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me an extra few minutes. I was struggling there for a little while. Mistimed my ride, so it's we're okay now. We can breathe.
12, a little over 12 miles in 30 minutes. That's not a leisurely bike ride.
Yeah, we go more for power really than distance, but yeah, we'll take it. It was a good ride. We were on a PR pace for about 20 minutes, and then I just kind of crashed, and it was just a kind of grind it out for the rest of the ride. But we'll take it. We got a good sweat in. That's all that matters.
Let's kind of go rapid fire on some spring football because there's so much to get to, and we always run out of time. Let's start in Starkville. I know you've gone back and you've watched these games. This was Zach Arnett as Mississippi State's head coach. He said the offense is not going to be radically different, but I thought the offense looked kind of radically different. They ran the football a lot in their spring game. What did you make of Mississippi State, the maroon and white game last Saturday?
It looked radically different to me. Maybe some of the passing concepts are going to be similar once the ball is snapped, but the protections won't be the same. And the run game obviously is going to be radically different. They come out, run stretch play on the first play of the game, and then you see the end around a play or two later, which is the perfect way to take advantage of the stretch play if you've got it going. And, I do think that technically and fundamentally there'll be a little bit of extra time that Will Rogers probably going to need to get super comfortable as he was in the air raid. And it was hard to tell defensively. I mean, I think Arnett even said, listen, we put in like this 2-4 defense because we didn't have enough defensive linemen to get through the spring game. I appreciate him going out and actually having a spring game instead of, being kind of like Lincoln Riley and just canceling practice for a week or so because he had so many guys nicked up. But either way, I thought there were some individuals that stuck out. The main thing for me, outside of the offense looking as different as it did, the ball's just on the ground too much. Both running backs fumble. You had a couple of drops, some by key receivers. Like you saw a big drop by Justin Robinson. Now, he also had a couple of nice catches, but he's a big physical target that I think they're going to need this year. And then a couple of receivers that were open and, inaccurate throws that put the ball on the ground again. So a bad snap or two here and there. Too many times that football is on the ground for the Mississippi State offense. Not going to really judge the defense. I did like what I saw from John Lewis. I thought he was flying around. Yeah. J.P. Purvis off the edge I thought was doing some nice things. Deshaun Page he had a full-speed motor going at linebacker. But I'm not going to try and really take much away from what that group looked like. I don't think it'll be any different. But it'd be hard for me to believe, Richard, that offense is not going to be drastically different than it was a year ago.
Grove Bowl last Saturday in Oxford. Say what you want to about Lane Kiffin, but he knows how to put on a fun spring game. 53-52 was the final. I feel like this Ole Miss team has got a lot of storylines, especially on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side, they got to get more people. And there were a couple of guys that popped, I thought, defensively. I guess let's start with the quarterbacks. What did you think of the three quarterbacks that you saw play in that game?
I thought there were times that they all three looked good. And I thought there were different things you could point out as sort of strengths of the three. It was pretty apparent to me that sort of the operation of it, Jackson Dart had the best command. I just, a lot of times I go back and I in these spring games, I think you have to be specific with what you're looking for and probably have to be somewhat detail-oriented. But the way that he went out and managed and ran the offense, his procedure with the offense, I thought was strong. He looked poised, looked like he knew when to get the ball out. He looked accurate. Didn't look like he was taking many chances, which towards the end of last year I thought he did a little bit more of. But then you see Sanders when he's on the move. Obviously, he can be pretty dangerous, and not just running the football, but what he can do throwing the football outside of the pocket. I just don't know how important that would be in that offense. Tough to get it. Like Tennessee and Ole Miss will be the two toughest reads on the offensive line because you're going at a pace that oftentimes dictates how things go up front. So it's difficult to take away. But I did think the right side of the offensive line looked really good. I saw consistent movement over there. I saw good physicality on that side of the football. that was at least one side that I came away from that game saying, you know what, I liked what I saw over there. I think that's going to be something that's solid for that team. We know what Judkins is. I mean, I think he's the best back returning in college football, and definitely in the SEC. So you're going to be able to lean on him at different points in time. The other part that I really liked was just seeing Trigg back on the field at tight end, because I understand, and I've had conversations not only with Lane, with Charlie Weiss Jr., with Jeff Levy, and even going over to Knoxville and the last couple of years covering that group, whether it's been Heupel or Golish, talking about what the tight end means to that offense. And that sounds weird, I know it, because people don't think about the tight end being important. But when you insert the tight end into the run game, and when you can put them in line or it's H, or you can split them out, and you force that defense to not know how to identify that player, it gives you so many advantages from a matchup perspective, whether it's the number count in the box or out wide in coverage. And Trigg athletically gives them something that they hadn't had in quite some time. If he's healthy all year, I think he has a really nice year inside that offense.
And Cole, what's really fascinating?
And then also the big kid from NC State up front, Zero. Joshua Harris. I said when I went and studied his film, I think you and I talked about it when he first transferred, and I'm like, listen, Pete Golding got a legitimate SEC interior defensive lineman. The only problem I see is he's got the motor on about 3 or 4 out of every 10 plays. If they can get that up to 7, 8 out of 10 plays, they're going to have a guy who can cause a problem. And he was in the backfield a bunch in that game, so he's somebody that I think that defense may be able to lean on. And then you throw Ivy, Johnson, Pegues up there with him. If he can just eat up some space and be problematic to where you have to pay more attention to the inside of that defense, that's going to let some other guys probably be able to have better years than we suspect.
I was just going to mention a second ago, you were talking about Trigg and the tight end spot. That, to me, is what makes it so fascinating that they picked up Caden Prieskorn, the tight end transfer from Memphis in the offseason, because he's a bigger body and a guy that you can kind of put his hand on the ground, be an end-of-the-line guy, and do some different things. And then that may really open up what Ole Miss can do with Trigg if he's fully invested in, kind of soaking up and being a part of the offense.
Oh, and everybody wants to run 12 right now. One back, 2 tight ends. Everybody. We've come full circle to where multiple tight end sets are cool again in college football, really in all levels of football. You have to have different tight ends, and I think obviously you have to have the depth to be able to do it. I can tell you this, Memphis did not want to lose Caden Prieskorn.
No.
Super reliable, super physical. He'll bring a little bit different demeanor and attitude up front, but he's not a guy that can't get out in routes and catch the football. Now, athletically, is he going to wow you? No, that's not really who he is. But I think it's valuable to have two different tight ends. Have a guy who's a little bit more of a grinder, a little bit more of your hard hat guy, and then have somebody athletically who can be sort of your move tight end. But don't get it twisted. I'm with you. I think Prieskorn is going to be a valuable piece of that offense. It's not going to be a lot of explosive plays, a lot of wow plays, but he'll do a lot of the dirty work up front and probably cause defenses to play them a certain way that will open things up for that offense consistently.
I'm going to try to do 20 seconds on 3 different teams. Give me 20 seconds on the Florida Gators.
It's not as bad as it looks. I think Austin Armstrong got a little trigger happy, and he brought blitzes from all over the place. I think he ran 7 corner cats in that game. So
heat them up.
It wasn't a lot of guys getting beaten one-on-ones. It was guys just it was a lack of awareness. We can fix that. We can't fix guys just getting smoked left and right. So I do think it's a little bit more repairable than people think.
20 seconds on the Arkansas Razorbacks.
I really like what this new offense could do for KJ Jefferson. The receivers passed the eye test. Rocket Sanders is elite. I think the offensive line's still going to take some time to come into form. The defensive line's got a chance to be pretty good. You've got new bodies in the secondary that was atrocious last year. But KJ Jefferson under center, not as reliant on tempo, not as reliant on some of the quick throws, maybe some more RPO stuff, I think could lead to him having a big year.
20 seconds on Tennessee.
Really difficult to tell because you had all your receivers out, a couple offensive linemen out, and went down during the game, a couple guys on the front 7 out. I don't know what to expect from the defense. Peely, the linebacker coming over from BYU, should be a massive help. They're going to need it. That defense was not good last year. You lose your 2 best offensive linemen. I don't know what that's going to look like, but the word is that Dante Thornton, the Oregon transfer at wide receiver, and I quote, runs similar to Jalen Hyatt.
Ooh.
If they get 70% of the production that Jalen Hyatt gave him from one of those guys that didn't play, then that offense could be just fine.
True or false? LSU's the best team in the West.
Maybe. Could be.
We'll unpack that next time.
It'd be hard not to pick them right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for your time. Have a great weekend, Cole.
Thanks, Richard.
Cole Cubelic on the phone.